Hey everyone, welcome to the Worship Artistry podcast. I'm Jason,
I'm Nick.
and we have a guest today.
Yes, this
New couch. How
blue-
beautiful is this new
blue
couch?
new couch. Like, it was a smaller green one and very uncomfortable. Now look at this new couch. Wow.
And on that couch is our friend Joshua Leventhal.
Joshua.
Nick.
Yes, how's it going?
Yeah. Joshua, welcome.
It's good to be here, man.
Well, I'm very excited to have Joshua because I've actually been following your music for a while.
It's awesome.
I teach a lot of worship songs and stuff with Worship Artistry. I think we're 700 something now. Wow. And so I'm always kind of looking for other things to listen to when I'm not working. and I forget, I don't even remember how I came across your music. I think I heard it on a playlist or something and I was like, that's a keeper. Oh. And then just been following and then looked you up and found out that you were in Vancouver, BC.
Yeah.
So Joshua has traveled internationally to be here. You're our first international guest in the studio, so thank you.
Wow.
And but yeah, man, I love what you do. I love your music, and so I was curious, like, how do you describe what you do? Because it's kind of unique. It doesn't necessarily fit in the in all the buckets.
Yeah. So I don't really have like a cool, quick way of describing it, but the best I've been able to do is that I write music under Jesus, and it's meant to respond to the goodness of Him across the spectrum of what it means to be human, and to do full honesty without betraying reverence or hope.
That is a great description. As I listen to your music, I think a lot of times we tend to like swing in really heavy directions, right? Yeah. So, it's either it's full on, just like everything's fine, don't worry about it, or it's just like sad navel gazing, and you're like, but we do have hope, right?
Yeah,
like we do, like
totally.
Where is that in between place? And I think the pendulum swings a lot, and I think that you find this really interesting balance that start like, I don't know, it all happens like through story, with you, and you should find this interesting balance that it's like, no, God is still hope, there is still something more, but it's in the midst of the humanity, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah, I think I just love tension because that's my experience of life is we like to categorize things really neatly. And I like to be able to articulate very clearly what I believe, what I feel, all those kind of things, but like leave space for it to not be this or that and to hold this and that. And I think like the way it's funny when you use the word hope. I like the idea of hope that's like savvy. I think the Christian music that turns me off personally is where it just feels very tone deaf to lived experience.
What does that mean? What is like? Could you expound on that just a little bit for me?
Yeah, where it kind of stays all post-resurrection, no Gethsemane.
Gotcha.
And so I don't want to just live in Gethsemane, but I want to have gone through there. So the idea of like hope being savvy would be like, no, I've tasted death. I don't accept it as the final, but I also think that the new life is that much more potent because of that. And there are people for which they're kind of happy to not go to some of those places, and for them that's awesome. But I kind of want to get the people who fall through the cracks and don't feel like they've met Jesus only in the happy places, but have met Him in the bellows.
Have you found some of those people?
Yeah. Everywhere.
Wait,
what? What are you talking about?
Did you find?
It's crazy.
Challenged Christians.
I think one of my favorite things to hear is when people say like, "You basically gave words and articulation to what I've known I was feeling and haven't been able to express," and to do that again from a place of still orthodoxy. I think. To your either this or that on the happy, sad spectrum, I think on the faith side of artistic expression, oftentimes we either have, basically don't ever question anything and don't leave space quite rigid, or question everything and actually I'm done. And people feel like they have to fit into one of those two camps. And I go like, actually, I want to say that I believe in the infallibility of God's word. I believe in who He is historically through His saints. but also allow the space. I think the Bible and church history have given us a lot more permission in how we reckon and wrestle than we will often take up on, because we just want to make sure that everybody knows like that we still believe. And it's like, no, I still believe fully. But I actually want to give more robustness to faith by, for lack of a better word, like testing it. Yeah.
So how did you start with that? Because like, did you just, come out of the womb fully formed with this tension of our experience? Or because in a lot of scenarios, I know in my own experience, it can be scary to walk through that door, to start asking those questions. And when your faith and your reality aren't matching up, and you're going, okay, but I thought that this is what was supposed to happen, and if I question, then it's bad, right? And then, but if I don't question, I'm just kind of living in oblivion, or like you said, I just kind of take off and go like, I'm out.
Yeah.
When did you kind of walk through that door and ask those questions, or were you always kind of like, yeah, this is just how I see the world?
No, I think
how I see God.
So faith-wise, like I actually don't remember not knowing Jesus. Like my parents are both incredible believers, but it wasn't like, oh yeah, I piggybacked off their faith until I was 13, and that's when it became my own. Like I genuinely have always known him, and that's deepened and obviously resonated more fully over time. But at the same time, I think lived experience, these things that I say to be true, really as you encounter suffering. And I would say some childhood stuff that I didn't really reckon with until adulthood. And then just things throughout, really like coming face to face with like idolatry in my own heart and fears that I thought even acknowledging them wasn't okay. And as I did that and kind of just spilled it open, I think I remember this moment of really feeling like, okay, God, like the wedding covenant is here. Like I'm not leaving, but on those terms, I need to talk about literally everything with you. And I think the reason for that is, the psalmist gives pretty clear indication of the depths to which we are known deeper than ourselves. And so any thoughts or feelings that we have that we don't articulate are already known by him. And so it doesn't do him or us favors to deny that. Instead, it's like, okay, I'm going to bring this to you. And I don't know why there's a fear of that in the church. Maybe it's just like, oh, then maybe people will leave. It's like, no, I think faith actually could look a lot more dynamic, because I think people do leave. They just leave silently because they don't feel like there's been space. And so, I would describe, I would describe ministry. So like I work in a local church. I do music. I try to live an embodied Christian life. And I think in all of those things, the way I would primarily describe my ministry is like what I'm kind of called to is helping people feel less alone. And all of that in pointing the hope of Jesus. But that's the honesty that I'm seeking. Honesty that stays. It doesn't leave, but it goes there.
So what kind of like culture is there? Because you're from Canada.
Yeah.
What kind of culture of like Christianity or church or faith is up there? Because I talk to a lot of my friends and they're like, it is a little different than America's. But what you're kind of talking about right now kind of sounds like my exact upbringing. And I'm not Canadian. So I'd like to understand how did you grow up in it? What is it kind of like? Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. Well, I'm actually American born. Both my parents are American, but spent most of my life in Canada. And Canada and the US do have a lot of similarities. I would say at like a cultural national level, Canada is inherently more secular. There's more of a distancing. Like there is still very much a history of the church and a lot of, I think, Western ideals that are born out of a Judeo-Christian worldview. But there is generally more, there's more acknowledged secularism, I would say. And then in the church culture, it kind of depends on where you are. So where I am now in Chilliwack is like probably one of the closest to like the Bible Belt in Canada, which is still like not like Bible Belt, but like much more churched, much more like culturally accepting of Christianity and church culture.
Okay.
And Alberta would be similar, but a lot of BC, like Vancouver, is like the polar opposite. So even just like an hour away from where I am, you have a completely different context. And then as far as like interior, like kind of church evangelical culture, decently similar in a lot of ways. I think there's a lot of emulation that happens from what we see in the States. One of my friends would describe it as like Canada across a lot of cultural stuff has kind of big brother syndrome. Like we wait to see what the US does before we do it.
I'm sorry.
and then secretly loathe them.
Yeah, right. Gosh darn these guys.
And I would say that applies a little bit to church practice too. So like I think a lot of our church lives would look fairly similar. A little bit more, we're just the stereotype of being polite, quote unquote. There's a little bit more of this measuredness that we inherit from our Britishness.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah.
But it is a very like the US. I think like depending on where you are, you'll have vastly different experiences.
For sure.
Culture.
Yeah. How long were you in Texas then?
We moved up when I was three. But then we actually we toured the States a lot. So my dad's actually not musical, but he's a professional illusionist.
Oh, okay. Very cool.
and
That's a magician.
Yes.
Is he in the room with us?
And so,
But I was actually right here.
it's funny because like growing up, that was like a defining thing that like everybody knew about me, and like now it comes up less and less. But like he was a part of like some pretty big movements and stuff in the U.S. So we would tour all over the States. And so I had like a pretty good sense of that. But I grew up in Saskatchewan, which is like middle of Canada, like right above like North Dakota, Minnesota. And it's like I would describe it as like the Iowa of Canada, like basically just like farmland. Like crazy.
I'm friends with a lot of people in Winnipeg.
Yeah.
So that's
very
all
similar.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's funny. Very cool. Because like with the culture in America, like the evangelical, like that's kind of like the number one kind of thing, right?
Totally.
But it's not the only thing, right?
100%.
There's all kinds of different things, and that's kind of like, well, like I'm hearing from you is like there's a deeper sense of just, hey, I went to church, I got saved, and cool. This is all just rainbows, butterflies. Jesus has blonde hair. It was white, 6'3" maybe. Yeah. But no, there's a lot of hardened people out there with the deeper sense of like, no, I want to know God. I want to know what else there is, because I found him in this horrible time of my life.
Yeah.
Like with me, most recently, my this was a series of just very unfortunate events. The same year, the day my dad died, I woke up with a broken neck. 2 months later, roughly, my father-in-law died. About maybe 2 months after that, it was Christmas Eve, my grandma died. And then about 2 months right after that, my dog died of cancer. And it was just a really terrible season in my life, and there was a lot of moving to go help my mother-in-law. I left and got fired from my job in Colorado to go help my dad die. My wife, she ended up having to take like 3 jobs because we just were struggling so hard and so much during my this season. And right before all this season, I remember just like talking to my dad as he got his diagnosis, and I was like, man, Dad, I just don't know if I believe in God anymore. And I was like, this is just too much. I when I was a pastor, I sat with people dying in the hospital, and with just random people on the streets praying for them, and just people bleeding and whatever, can I offer help? But then like all of the personal things, all of that was easy, right?
Yeah.
It's easy to see the front-facing things and be like, yeah, I can deal with this. I can be there. I can go, God, send me. Yes, please, thank you. And then all of this personal crap comes up, and you're like, I just don't know if I believe anymore. And it was just so hard. And I remember my dad just saying, he goes, that's okay. Yeah. It's okay. This is hard. I hate this.
Yeah.
And he's the one who's dying, consoling me. And I told my mom, she's like, oh, no. All this stuff. But she was having a bad time in her life too.
Yeah.
But that wasn't the case, It was a moment of just, man, God's gonna find me in this deepness, in this oceans, so to speak. These oceans deep. where my faith will fail, or whatever the lyrics are. Sorry, I can't remember the lyrics. That's Oceans by Hillsong, if anybody didn't know. But I knew God was going to find me somewhere because, man, I was off into the deep end and just drowning, and I needed something. And when I was like, I don't know if I love you anymore. I don't know if I like you even. I don't know if I want to be a part of this. The only thing I got from God was love. Yeah. The only thing I got from talking to people about it was, well, no, Nick.
Yeah.
You need to go to the church.
Yeah.
You need to go inside these four walls, and then you'll just be better somehow. And I'm not saying that's not true at all. It's just, I think a lot of times there's so much more deepness to what's going on that people don't understand, and they just give advice that it's like, well, it's not maybe the best advice. And so it's interesting, and I like hearing your perspective on things. So keep going.
Well, man, I'd say, okay, like that's like my response when somebody shares that kind of experience is to not try to offer like anything in the way of answers or, well, actually, because
take notes.
So like, I'd be hesitant to try to draw systematic theology from Job, but I think there's a few things from Job that are very helpful. One is that, like, to your point, like at least once in every person's life, they're going to experience like a suffering in hailstorm form, like clusters. Mm-hmm. It's not one isolated event. It's things in proximity that just have no right to be in that kind of proximity. It's beyond handling. Mm-hmm. Two is that Job's friends were awesome for 7 days when they didn't open their mouths. They were great when they just sat there.
Good job, guys. Finally, they're like, I can't do it anymore. I got to say something.
They just held his wounds, and then they started going, well, we got to get to the bottom of how this happened, and they started drawing straight lines. And his whole point is like, no, it just isn't the case, and they just dig their heels in more and more. Right. And lastly is that the only answer God actually ever gives Job is like, you're in the fog and I'm not. And that's it. Like, he actually never gets to see what happened on this side. Right? Yeah. G.K. Chesterton has this passage in his book, Orthodoxy.
G.K. Chesterton, that's a name.
G.K. Chesterton is my boy. He is like my favorite.
That's awesome.
But he just calls him G.
He's my G.
But he has this passage where he talks about Gethsemane, and he basically says, like, guys, choose a God who has gone through the human horror of pessimism, like, who has experienced doubt, who has experienced being forsaken of himself. He says literally, like, this is too hard to say in words, but the atheists can find a God who for an instant became one. And man, I just think there's so much to helping people learn to suffer well, and part of that is just being genuine about it. I'm a lifelong martial artist. I have a little bit of a gear, if you know.
There will be a demonstration after this.
Yeah, it's going to take me out.
And there's somebody in the UFC world, because like what happened, when that happened in the 90s was basically like a lot of stuff got found out. Like, this doesn't work, this doesn't work, this doesn't work, this doesn't work. And his point is basically like, I don't care what like works on, 45-year-old untrained dude. I want to know what works on the guy who's training every day of his life for this. Like, I want to know what's like actually effective. And I think about that in terms of my art. Like, I actually don't care what works on people who haven't had the dark night of the soul. I want to know what works for those people.
Interesting.
I want to meet people in that place. And if it doesn't, and kind of the point about the spectrum thing, like some of these songs, like, yeah, they've been sung at funerals. They've also been sung at weddings.
Sure.
They've been on birth playlists, and I've sung them to people literally on their deathbeds. And
that God gave me you.
And
that
one. But no, I think it has to meet at those levels. And if it doesn't, for me, it just like it needs to be what I needed in those moments.
Yeah,
if
for
that
sure.
makes sense.
Well, I think it's really cool how, if you haven't listened, like a lot of your stories, they are actually your songs come from the perspective of somebody in a Bible story.
Yeah.
So your song Goliath, you're like singing as David.
Yeah.
But you're not singing as like, David, I'm going to go take out the giant guy,
Yeah.
you know, like the hero. You're singing
Yeah.
about all the doubt and the question. And so it's like a lot of times people use the Bible as like they'll grab like one verse and be like, oh, see, God wants you to be prosperous and he wants you to have all these things.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he doesn't, but it's also like, oh, that's kind of like saying, hey, I hope you have a good day. Like in the Bible, there's more going on.
Totally.
So what is there a way in which that you read those stories, that you pull those pieces out? Like, how do you sit in that? How do you find that perspective in these Bible stories that we've all heard a million times, you know?
Yeah. I think sitting is really like a lot of it. Like I said, like I don't remember not knowing Jesus, and because of that, I've been in his word for a really long time. And I think it has to go beyond the point of just like, I know how these go, to like, can I understand its like contours, and not just a contour of an individual story, but how does that lead into the whole? And I think part of biblical wisdom is finding the bedrock. And so like in the case of David, right? It's like David was a man after God's own heart. David also committed immense sin in the sight of the Lord. And if you proof text that, if you go, well, this verse says this and this verse says this, you might go, well, being a man after God's own heart means sinning a lot. And it's like, no, the tension is finding, okay, what does it mean that he was a man after God's own heart? And yet God said, you actually can't be the one to build my temple because of how much blood is on your hands. And to go, okay, this is a complicated life. And part of that complication, like that song doesn't really resolve at all, musically or lyrically. It literally ends on questions. And I think that that's really important. And that if we encourage people towards wisdom, towards soaking to the point of contours being found, that we don't have to be as afraid of like, are they going to get this right? Because we've actually given them the ability to relate to God's word more fully and in depth. And that's part of my thing is I fear some of the illiteracy that's kind of happening, where we're just assuming people's level of comprehension is going to be so low that we kind of are like, you know, it's like we have a room of sixth graders down to kindergartners. We're only talking to the kindergartners. And as a result, everybody is losing. And I think that rather than me just complaining about that, I want to try to do that through the best way possible. And I think whether we want it to be or not, music is one of the most formative things we have. It's why, as a worship leader, I'm really, really picky about what we sing. And it's actually not, hey, is this song saying anything wrong or like heresy? Like that's like actually like that's just a baseline. Like is it saying enough? Is it how is this forming people?
So do you guys want to sing your songs at your church then?
No, we sing songs from everybody.
Here's another one from
I'm
Joshua.
I always find it funny when people are like, oh, like, so what movement are you? And I'm like,
what does that mean?
I go
like,
song by song. Like,
does that mean denomination or
so like worship movement? Like what? Like are you Elevation? Are you Bethel?
Okay,
it's like right. I literally will go song by song. I won't write off anybody's wholesale. I'll just be like, what does this song show? And like, does it articulate truth well? So to your point about scripture is basically, how can I like awaken wonder in people about what this is? And it's like both like for the beauty's sake of the art, but it's also like kind of utilitarian in the like, I'm trying to give devotional practice for people too. And kind of marrying those things.
Yeah. Well, I think you do it really well. It's like, you know, listening to your music. I know for myself, like I write for my church a lot.
Yeah, me too.
And
so you do sing your songs at your church?
We sing some of my songs at church.
And he announces every time, this is another Josh Leventhal joint.
It's actually really important to me that I never announce that it's my song.
At the very end, it's like CCLI, but like just like 10 times
Dude,
bigger.
it was funny. We switched over like presentation software and you like have to put in the info.
Oh, yeah.
You know? And And so I was putting it in. I was like, "Oh yeah, I wrote that one." And people were like, "I didn't know you wrote that song."
Yeah.
like that's great news, actually.
Yeah,
It makes
totally.
you feel better than when it's like, "Man, I love that song." You're like, "Yeah, did you write that song?" No, I didn't write that one.
Yeah, I did right away, yeah.
But I think there's a lot of room to do things musically
Yeah.
in a room with people that we kind of don't lean on because we don't see that in, it's like, oh, well, Elevation does it this way.
Yeah.
Bethel does it this way. Like, and there's a kind of a blueprint of this is how you do well in worship.
Yeah.
But in my own experience, that doesn't work in our context at all. I haven't tried that hard, but whenever I have, I'm like, I'll teach a song from Worship Artistry, and I go, I just feel like it's a pretty good one. Like, I don't know, just see how it goes, and it's just like,
Yeah.
but I think like because we have this model, and what we see is like, well, this is what works, right? I think a lot of times we don't experiment and do other things musically. You do a lot in your recordings, at least.
Yeah.
I haven't seen you live, but you do a lot with the vocals. You do a lot with the textures and layers. Like, do you recreate that when you're playing live, obviously in concert, but also at church and that sort of thing? Is that all there?
In concert, absolutely never at church.
Why not? Why
not?
So I've actually never worked at a church of less than 1,000 people, which I'm
okay.
Weird
flex,
that
but
sounds
okay.
that sounds like a flex. I actually kind of am sad about it, and I'm actually about to be going like full time with music. And I'm saying I'm not leaving ministry. I'm just not going to be on staff at a church anymore. But it is funny because once you hit rooms that size, they are expecting the kind of like industry standard, not even in terms of quality, but in terms of style. And any time I've tried to deviate from that, there's oftentimes been pushback because the metric does become how is everybody feeling? And I've actually been really disheartened in some ways by like just lack of ability to hold space for something other than this being where we stay dynamically and emotionally.
We start at 11 and we end at 12.
Well, and I mean, musically, like it's like if you do, I would argue this should be the case for worship, but like in any kind of musical experience, whether it's quote unquote Christian or not, like you have to have like dynamic flow. And I'm finding more and more the expectation is like, no, we actually, we keep our floor pretty high and our ceiling just keep it going. And really, I think a lot of not just the writing itself, but also genre conventions around arrangements and that kind of thing are being crafted with arenas in mind. And so that is the expectation. And so what's, in describing your church, I'm actually pretty envious of the fact that that's actually not helpful for the room you're in, because it actually gives you more freedom to do things that make sense for your context. And that's part of what I'm longing for too, is like just a bringing back of like context. Like we don't need to franchise church, even if it's like, okay, like this isn't all like under one umbrella. It's like, it's kind of what you're going to get every time you walk in. It's going to look like this. It's like, what does it look like for the community to be what shapes how we engage in church? I've said before, like, so in Canada, we don't really have like a defined worship sound or movement. It's like, again, it's like pretty derivative of a lot of US stuff. But I've actually wondered like, what would it look like for Canadian identity to shape some of the worship culture there? And haven't seen it happen yet, which is too bad.
Do you think it will ever happen?
It'll happen if people go, we need to do this from a place of our context and not from a like just like let's make a movement. I think one of the things that's funny is if you think about kind of like the birthplace of modern worship and really like the Vineyard stuff, like those guys didn't have a target they were aiming at, right? They were just like, hey, this is what's pouring out of our context. And what I find really cool about that too is that, man, the scriptural references in some of those songs were very diverse. They would go to all sorts of cool places.
Love those songs about Song of Solomon. Those were,
You were talking to me about those, right?
Yeah. Some of those vineyard tunes that we sang when I was in high school. I look back on them, I'm like, whoa.
There were a few of those, but there was also,
loved them. But
I didn't even know about vineyard till I moved out here.
Yeah,
that's crazy to me. So
but there's a lot of like richness to exploring because there wasn't an expectation of like, oh, we have to kind of stay within this framework. And we see that now. And so what's ironic is like with my music, like my original plan was to kind of like, because I was looking at like Crowder growing up and going like, this guy is like doing this church stuff, but he's doing it very experimentally, both sonically and lyrically and stuff. And I want to do that. And like, as I started doing both, I ended up finding like, oh, I really, in order to express both like I think my like artistic lyrical mandate, but also to like do that musically, sonically through my sound, it hasn't fit in modern church, which is okay, but like kind of sad to me.
Yeah. Do you feel like so it sounds like you're saying you kind of feel like you have to make a choice.
Yeah.
Like this won't work here.
Yeah.
Because there's like a mandate or there's kind of this like larger picture of like this is what the expectation is. Do you think there's ever a world in which we kind of move away from that and that actually can change? Because it's like I'm trying to even think of like for you was like the mandate coming from the staff, was it kind of like, hey, that's cool you're having those feelings, but we need it up here, man, you know, like, or
yeah, it's mostly been from a staff place, but I think it's from them assessing like, oh, how do we feel like this feels on a Sunday? And I think it could change, but I think for it to change, it's going to have to go through a phase of uncomfortability because it's going to be like we haven't done this before, you know.
What I know about golf is every putt could be a straight putt if you hit it hard enough. So just start doing it, man.
Yeah,
hey, we don't like that. That's fine.
Yeah, honestly, I think it has to go through a phase of like in the same way like when you teach a new song, like people aren't going to sing for the first verse and chorus. They have to learn it.
Yeah.
But we're getting to a point where even that is almost like, we can't do that. And maybe this isn't your guys' experiences depending on like the church size. Sure. But this has been like the like at the larger scale and like, and I don't say that as a flex. I say that as like it is a lament for me, if anything. And so I'm hoping that we can go, hey, in order to grow, we have to go through like growing pains. And that might mean the removal of some sleekness, of some expectation, and just see what happens.
So how did growing up in church and that sort of thing, listening to Crowder, like how did you develop your sound?
Yeah.
Like who are your influences? Because it's interesting that you mentioned Crowder because I was talking to somebody recently and they were saying how they're like worship as a genre, and I always put it in quotes because I'm like worship's not a genre,
right.
But we treat it like that in terms of like where do you put this? What playlist does this one go on?
It's just how you talk about it,
right? But it's one of the few where like the people that are actually writing it don't have heroes in that world. You know, it's like, oh yeah, I write worship songs, but dude, I'm a huge like Aerosmith fan.
George Clay.
Or just like, it's like I listen to these other things, but then I come back and I write worship. And it's like this like kind of different thing. Like how did you develop the sound that you've created?
Man, it's like I actually didn't start music till I was in high school. So on the worship side of thing, like really Hillsong hadn't even dominated at that point yet. So it was like really Crowder was a huge influence on me. My own personal listening taste, like some worship music, but a lot of like, I was into a lot of like alternative rock, pop punk, hardcore, metalcore, that whole world. And even some like folk and that kind of thing. And I think early on, like I was just basically like mostly alt rock with some genre bendiness. And then when I wrote Lepers, something in the melody construction was like, and at the time actually Bon Iver hadn't fully gone into like the 22 a million thing. So my reference point was Imogen Heap, Hide and Seek. For that sound, I was like, the way that this works feels like it needs a vocoder on it. And that was kind of a shift for me where I went, okay, like I feel like there's something to blending like really like ethereal, like synthesized sound with organic acoustic instruments. And once I kind of took the hope, like, cause like, if you listen to my first EP, it doesn't really have any of that. It has some like synth stuff, but it's pretty mild by comparison. But I was at that point trying to toe the line of like, some churches could sing this, some might not be able to. And like, it was kind of living in that no man's land of like, it has the potential to be congregational in the right context. And then actually, I think as I started writing in church and going, okay, like these are the constraints I'm facing from a congregational perspective, I'm just going to take all of those off of what I'm writing. And once I did that, I was like, I want my stuff to be this. I want it to be this blend of like some instruments you don't even know what that is. And just feels very alien. And other parts of it are like very clearly that is an acoustic guitar. That is a like felt piano. And just blend that. And it's funny. When you talk about heroes, like when you're younger, like I say this for writing, I say this for performing music, like, you naturally are going to sound and do things like your heroes. And when you get those comparisons, you're really stoked on it. And then the longer you do it, those happen less and less. And that's actually more and more encouraging to me now. Cause like back like there was like my Need to Breathe phase and it's like, oh, you sound like Need to Breathe. And I was like, yes, I was so pumped about that. And then, and like now, like the closest thing I get is like, if Peter Gabriel and Bon Iver had a musical baby that loved Jesus, that would probably be like what you sound like.
You know what? That's a good combo.
But I love that there's like not really a direct analog. Like it's like, it's that kind of different that there's not like, oh yeah, you just sound like this. And I see that as a huge win. Yeah.
So are you independent?
Yeah. Fully independent.
So how has that been for you? I mean, the music industry has changed so much.
The truth is, I have no idea what it'll look like in even a year. The way that things shift and the rate at which they shift now makes that pretty challenging. But
JoshuaLeventhal.ai.
Never. We can't go down the AI rabbit hole because
that's a whole nother conversation.
All we'll talk about.
Cut it off.
I will start saying things that are going to get me in trouble.
That's okay. We'll do
let's start naming
hours.
Names.
Worship Artistry after hours.
What I will say is I think it's an offense to the Imago Dei. Anyways.
Well, there we go.
I would say that like, so right now it's basically just like, for me, I write all my own music. I have a producer and then I have a manager, and that's really it. Initially it was like all just, hey, I put music out there, world, here it is. Hope you like it. And to some extent that is still the case, but now it's kind of getting to the point where like you got to start paying for ads for people to see you. That's like all the organic reach on socials were squashed. And so I've had to start like putting way more money into that side of it, which I'm actually happy to do because I'm not beholden to what people say is or isn't going to work. And I can trust my instincts a little bit more. And I'm really thankful for my manager. I'm the first like Christian artist he's ever managed. He's a believer, but he's just done stuff in the quote unquote secular space. But I tell him, hey, I'm making a 3-volume biblical concept record. I have no idea what singles are going to look like on it. And he's like, it's what you have to do. Like you need to do that. And so go for it. And honestly, I try to be smart. Like I'm not like anti-marketing. Like, like the very artistic thing to say is I just hate marketing. It's just so, and like
I'm not a content creator.
Part of me does. Part of me does. Like I don't enjoy getting in front of the camera. I more like hate the stuff that doesn't feel like me. So like you're never gonna see me do a TikTok dance. That's just not. That's just
unfortunate.
not who I am.
I need to.
Right?
Maybe
If
some-
this
maybe
wasn't my
some-
house, I'd be going home.
Maybe
So-
some martial arts demonstrations, perhaps.
I'm okay to put myself out there. You have to put yourself out there. And like the notion, and I think something that bothers me, if I'm honest, in the industry is when people hide behind the spiritual language of like, oh, we just want it to be God. It's like, no, just acknowledge that you put a lot of money into like it's like God, like, and I think it's
God
also unfair to the people who are actually writing incredible music that isn't getting noticed the same way.
Right.
When it's just like, oh, God just took this song, and like I'm all for giving God the credit, but when you just like hide all this stuff, like just be honest that like there is marketing involved in it, and it is a
Right.
whole part of the world. And so for me, it's just like I'm like pretty open about saying like, yeah, we try to be strategic. We try to think about like what does my online presence like look like, but I want that online presence to be 100% me. It's not some other alter ego version of me. It's just me figuring out how do I communicate who I am in a way that still connects with people en masse. But there's a lot of trust in like just going, I'm just trusting that people are going to connect with these songs. And kind of to your point, like about the stopping thing, which is a huge compliment, by the way, I thank you. But like, also it's not as much background music a lot of the time. Like it is kind of like you're going to get way more out of it if you really sit with the lyrics. And that, I don't know how helpful that is in a passive listening world. But again, I'm just kind of going like, I have to do it this way. And I'm hoping that that's going to work. And so far it has, it's not been like overnight success or anything like that, but it is like, whoa, I'm seeing momentum. And I think always depth of response has been the most important thing over breadth of response. Cause I'm like, man, if I'm getting the kind of messages from people where they're talking about how God has met them through this music, if that's working for like those people, then, and that's really my target. Like, so if some people are writing for like, what is this going to feel like in a room of 25,000 people? I'm like, what is this going to look like for somebody on the worst day of their life? Because if it's working for that person, maybe it'll work for their sister and their cousin. And like, and you just go out from there, and just meeting on that level.
Has there been a song that people have responded to more so than others in the way you're talking about?
I mean, the most popular one is Lepers for sure. That one is just kind of like it, and that was like zero marketing. That song was a demo, like literally. Like I always find it funny when musicians like they always talk about it's like, oh yeah, we recorded that on like the worst microphone and stuff like that. Like
That's cool sometimes.
yeah, and but they always like make it sound like it was like not a thing. But
Right,
like,
yeah.
I'm not kidding. It was not a thing. Like it was literally in my friend's basement. I was like, hey, this is my idea for the vocoder. Could we just try it? And then I really liked, like I literally, the jump the octave part, it was so quiet in his townhome with his neighbors that we like drove to a parking lot at like 10 o'clock at night in the back of his Volkswagen Golf. I'm just belting into the microphone.
Gotta not wake everybody
Yeah.
up.
Yeah, I've done that.
And then,
yeah.
so for whatever reason, that song like just took off. And so that's been like probably the largest response.
What do people say to you if they give you like a vocal, like, hey man, this helped me so much or whatever?
They'll either go really into detail about what they're going through,
Sure.
or they'll just say like, "This has been the worst year of my life," and they'll tell it's like thanks. I'm gonna be associated with that from now on. But I'm so grateful for that because
Sure.
I'm like, that's where I want to be meeting people. And so, like I got the chance to go play at a festival and do some shows in England over the summer.
Wow.
And I met a guy who had gotten out of prison, met Jesus, and somebody sent him lepers. And he's like, this has become like kind of integral to me knowing God.
Wow.
And it's like it's one thing when you get a message like that, when you're face to face with somebody on the other side of the world who you've never met.
Right.
It's just like kind of hard to.
Did you like stiff arm him and be like, I'm busy?
Absolutely not. That's the other thing.
Actually, you need to talk to my bodyguard.
Yeah, yeah,
You shouldn't
my
be talking to
manager's
me.
back here.
I want every single person I ever talk to feel like I gave them the time of day.
It's amazing.
Like there is zero space for being quote unquote too big to do that.
Sure.
And what's funny actually, and where I will give the industry credit is like when I've met big names in the industry, the biggest ones are actually very much like that.
Mm-hmm.
They're very personable and honoring of time. It's the ones who are on the way up who think that to be that, they have to have this distance. and be aloof. Those are the ones who can be a little bit standoffish.
Do you want to name some people?
Absolutely not. I did 4 years at a small Bible school in Saskatchewan, doing biblical studies, because like I knew I wanted to be a worship leader and I wanted to be a songwriter. I wanted to be an artist, and I was like, I have a lot of practical experience with music. I think I want to be as like formed by God's word as possible, and that has been a decision I've been very grateful for. And it's actually really helping me with my new project I it's given me tools as I approach how I tackle it.
So
Yeah,
I was about to say, with the new project.
Yeah.
What is it? Can you talk about it at all?
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's already announced. It's not a big secret or anything. But it's called Tapestry, which is a transliteration of the Greek word for tapestry. And the idea of like many parts comprising like a greater whole. And so it is a 3-volume biblical concept record that is like narrative focused, so story based, going from Genesis all the way to Revelation.
So super popular. You're just following a really popular template.
Yeah, 100%.
That's out there. Just
there'll be paths and
a lot of biblical concept records out there.
Yeah,
3-part.
I love like so I'm a huge movie nerd. Like honestly, that's like I actually think that like film and literature have been some of my biggest influence.
Like Jean-Claude Van Damme movies.
I mean, it was back in the day.
Because they're still mine.
But Jordan Peele, when he made Get Out, he said I wanted to make a movie I'd never seen before, and that's kind of how I approach like music creation. Like I kind of want to make something I've never heard before, and so this is basically just like covering the entirety of scripture, and like not equally weighted because like it's 25 songs, there's 66 books of the Bible, and there's infinite stories in there, but that instead it's more of a like zoom in extremely close at times, zoom out massively at other times, but have people walk away with a better understanding of like how it all works and what God's redemption story is through it, and get people thinking about it. And like actually the idea for it really did start with Goliath, which is a song I wrote years and years ago, but I didn't know that eventually it would turn into this whole thing. So volume 1 is going to be coming out in early 2026, and volumes 2 and 3 hopefully are going to happen sooner than later as well. But I released a few singles towards it right now, but they're all point of view narrative songs. And like part of the idea would be to like give people ways of thinking about it and that they've never thought about it before. So like the story of Cain and Abel, being from Abel's ghost speaking to Cain after he's already murdered him. One of the songs about the ministry of Jesus will be from the perspective of a Pharisee. So it's like, how do I make him look beautiful through the eyes of somebody who hates him? And I think what's happened for people who've grown up in church is there's a lot of yeah-ing about scripture, right? It's like you start to hear something you've heard 10,000 times and it just goes out the other ear. And so it's like, can I awaken people to this in a way that they haven't really thought about it? And so I kind of am treating it like my biblical studies degree is working overtime, but it's almost like whether it's a specific moment or it's a greater theme that gets unpacked in a song, but it's like, what is the thesis of that thing? And like, how do I tease that out? Because like, I'm not going to be able to cover every single event or moment, but how can I get to like kind of the core of it? So like, even with Goliath, it's like, okay, this is spanning David's life, and it's highlights. It's not, there's a lot of stuff we don't get into detail about, but like, how can I make the writing as muscular as possible to like achieve the like spirit of it as like quickly as I can, essentially. So it's like it's really an effort in like efficient storytelling.
Yeah.
Do you have a volume that you're most excited for?
I think more like individual songs. I'm doing when we have recorded, it's not until volume 2, but this is a song called Craft, and it's all of wisdom literature. So Psalms through Song of Solomon, but it's like a 14.5-minute prog song. It's like five mini songs that all like weave in, like they change time signatures and keys.
Like Dream Theater?
Not that complex. We're not getting polyrhythm.
I was gonna say Nick could play guitar on it.
Yeah, I'll do it.
It's not prog rock, but it is like kind of it's almost, if you know like Green Day, like American Idiot, like Jesus of Suburbia, where it's like you've got like 5 different movements that kind of go from one to the next. It's kind of like that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Interesting. I'd say like Paul McCartney and the Wings for me, maybe, because I don't really remember Suburbia or Jesus of Suburbia. Interesting. So when this releases, are you having like some big party? Are you going to do a big show, tour, or anything like that?
I mean, I would love to tour it. Don't have plans immediately right now. I probably should figure out some kind of party. I've never done like a release thing. So much of what I've done has been like, now I have to think about release way more than I used to. Kind of just be like, okay, here it is, world. But now, like, the more I plan, the better it does.
Sure. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. One of my goals with it is like, I actually want it to be like something that can be helpful for pastors and like Bible study leaders, professors, where they can actually use it to help people with scripture. And so part of that is going to be making like companion pieces to it. So my wife is an incredible abstract painter. I actually found her through her art. We met long distance, dated long distance, and been married for 3.5 years now.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But she's actually designing basically artwork that is 25 tiles, like 25 fragments representing each song, and each one is an individual image, but together they form a cohesive image. Cool. And you're not going to see the full thing until all 3 volumes are out, but there's going to be pieces for each.
Interesting. Okay.
Each volume that comes out. And the goal would be to actually make, first for the initial ones, like a digital companion that has like bigger zoom in on the artwork, features the lyrics, talks about themes, talks about like kind of some of what's going on, and basically just be like a devotional experience, essentially, something that people can really like holistically latch on to.
Yeah.
And to an extent, like when you talk about touring, like I kind of try to mimic this a little bit in the live experience. I actually use my wife's paintings as visualizers on screens like above or behind me, and I put the lyrics up. Even though it's not like a worship night per se, I like to have the lyrics up so people either can sing if they want to, or if they just want to take them in, that they have that available to them.
That's nice. So when all 3 volumes come out, that's when we'll see all of the artwork as a whole.
Yes.
And
yes.
will it like reveal like God holding you like at all?
It's like basically a Trinitarian image. It's quite like basic that way, but like the vibrance of the colors are pretty wild. It's one of those things that's like hard to explain.
She makes really beautiful work. I've been following her on Instagram, and I'm like,
yeah, she's incredible.
I can't wait to see this.
Cool. I find it funny that you use the word Trinitarian and then you use the word basic after that. You're wild to me. The last question I have is, so have you ever seen like worship fails on like Instagram or anything like that?
One of our staff members had a viral one.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
non-musical.
Oh, okay.
If you've seen the elders are castrating themselves in front of the Lord.
Oh, wait, that's awesome.
That was at my church.
No way, I've seen it.
I was the one playing the 1,000 Hallelujahs riff while that was happening.
No way.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Amazing. So in that vein, have you ever had anything like that happen at one of your shows or anything like that, or like just any type of funny thing?
I've had a couple good ones. One was at a worship night. This is like probably like 8 years ago. We were playing and it was kind of a quiet moment between songs, and my buddy went to adjust his giga delay and he hit something wrong. And you know the sound R2D2 makes when he hits like electrocution and like gets like it did that, and he just like turned up and like looked at me like he was just terrified, and like you can kind of hear people giggling like that we need to talk about it, and so I just like went to the microphone. I was like, can you feel it? And then everybody laughed, and then we just got over it and moved on. The other one, actually, like last year, I opened on a tour for a guy, and we were in this church where we played, and this like screech happened in our ears, like shrieking sound. It happened a couple times. And so after the song was over, I just said like, guys, I'm sorry, I have no idea what that was. Like, Jordan, do you know what that is? And this is my friend who's playing guitar, and he goes into his microphone, he goes, "That's Satan, brother." And then we found out it was just in our ears and it wasn't in the house. And so people had no idea
what are these guys talking about.
That's Satan, brother. Yeah. Weird.
Yeah.
Like, I thought this was a Christian.
Yeah.
Where are we? Get the kids.
Dude, that's amazing.
Yeah. I love that. That's hilarious.
Yeah,
dude.
so those are 2 that spring to mind.
That's funny. Okay, I do have one more question. I'm sorry, but it's not a funny thing. So how is it, like, because you called it a worship night. So we call concerts and worship nights oftentimes the same thing.
Yep.
Is there a tension there for you? Does that make sense what I'm asking? Maybe?
I think there is, like, if for my shows, like, I call them a show. If people want to call it a worship night, that's fine. But like, I'm not calling it that because I just kind of want to get, it's like, hey, if you want to respond this way,
gotcha.
Beautiful. Like,
but it's not a worship night.
Yeah. I'm not putting it on that because I don't want to give false pretense of like, hey, if you show up, you're going to know all of this. And like, it's going to be super congregational. It's like, nah.
Gotcha.
So I don't fall into that category. There have been literally times where I've said like, hey guys, like, is this a worship night concert? It's a concert, but like these songs are unapologetically about making much of Jesus and leaning into him fully. So worship, go for it.
Well, thanks Joshua for coming all the way down here.
Yeah, man.
My pleasure.
We really appreciate you coming on here and sharing everything you got. Where can people listen to you? Where do you want them to listen to you?
You can listen to me anywhere. I'm on all the things. I'm not on Bandcamp, but like on all the streaming platforms, I'm there. The best is honestly, I prefer Apple Music. That's just me personally. That's a good way to support artists. Tidal and Apple Music are kind of the best way to support artists. Spotify is why I am known the way I am because they have been the biggest discovery platform, but there's all sorts of problems there too. So, but you know what? End of the day, no matter what, if you can support it through any listening means the world. If you want to listen on YouTube, and that's cool too.
Cool.
We're gonna listen to you on YouTube now.
Sounds good.
We got these acoustic songs coming up, so we're excited for it.
Good stuff. Thank you so much for being here, man. I really appreciate you taking this traveling internationally.
Yeah, seriously,
making the trip and just sharing your heart. I think it is really cool when somebody puts as much into their art as they do, and then to be able to actually get to share that and hear the heart behind it, and then you like meet the person and go like, oh, you match this song. This like goes together, and your heart comes through everything. So thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, man. It's my honor.
And for you guys out there, please subscribe. We know you haven't. We know you're watching, and you're like, wow, this is great. We love this stuff. But just subscribe.
Just do it.
Just comment, like, share.
Ring the bell.
Yeah,
do all the stuff.
do all those things. That way we can have Joshua back.
100%.
But we'll see you guys in the next one. See ya.